Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another Social Blueprint interview. Friends, do you ever wonder why there are so many Jewish comedians in the world, despite being an oppressed people for a few thousand years? But when we looked at a list of names, Jerry Seinfeld, Larry David, Jackie Mason, Adam Sandler, and the list goes on and on and on. Well, we're going to talk about how to bring that laughter and joy into our lives today and to make us really the best versions of ourselves, because we are joined with an expert in laughter, Ros Ben-Moshe. And Ros has also just published a brand new book that I believe it was out Tuesday. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Excellent, excellent. So we're going to have a lot of material to cover, but I am sure that also we are going to have some very, very great takeaways. And with that, Ros, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Hey, before we get into the questions, Ros, I also just want to let everybody know the Social Blueprint, we are known for our interviews with experts such as Ros, but we are so much more than that. We are a directory of services, events, anything in the Jewish community. So you know the drill. Like, subscribe, go to our website, and it helps us bring you even more people. And with that, Ros, I have to start out with the first question.
Okay, sure.
Why is it that us humans are so negative?
Good question. We have what's called an inbuilt negativity bias, which, you might think, oh my gosh, we have to get rid of that.
Yes.
But it's an inbuilt survival mechanism. We need that in order to keep us out of trouble, to stop us sort of running from, into oncoming traffic or burning our hands. The issue is that this sort of threat system, this inbuilt negativity bias, is often in overdrive. So we don't want to get rid of it. We just want to tone it down.
Yeah, and I think that that's a great point, which is it does, as we spoke about it offline, it does help us. I mean, if a dog, a wild dog is chasing you, you better run.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, when you wake up on a lazy Thursday morning, it's not really serving you any good to say how terrible the day is going to be, is it?
No, it doesn't really serve you well.
Excellent. Ros, I want to talk about laughter and positivity, because I think positivity has been around for many, many years. Norman Vincent Peale, I think he wrote the first book close to 100 years ago now on it.
Is it?
Yes, something of that nature. But what is the difference in your mind between positivity and laughter and joy, I suppose?
They're very much interconnected. So I suppose if you sort of look at positivity as sort of being, the umbrella,
yes.
Laughter is a mechanism to positivity and joy. So laughter is very much a tool to enhance positivity. So a lot of people sort of think, going through a challenging time, they want to think positive. There's no point thinking positive. You need to do positive. So laughter is one of those doing things that actually, it's like shortcuts straight to that sort of feeling. Because when you're laughing, Greg, you're laughing, right? It's like you're not thinking about your, past woes or future worries. You're anchored into that moment of joy.
Hey, Ros, laughter. How do we laugh and have joy when a situation is seriously not positive?
It's a good question, and something I can really relate to, having had a bowel cancer diagnosis 10 years ago.
Yes.
A distinctly unfunny time in my life. I think firstly it's about acknowledging that you're going through a difficult time and sort of offering yourself some sort of kindness during that time. But it's also not leaving positive emotion and those feel-good emotions to chance. So it's actually choosing perhaps to spend time with people that, make you feel good, uplift you, that, smiling into yourself. Perhaps, if you meditate, adding a dimension of smiling to that meditation, because that cues those bodies, the quartet of happy hormones, giving you a dose of well-being. And by dose, I mean dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. It can be even, say for example, if you're feeling a bit anxious, it can be choosing to laugh, just intentionally, like setting your timer for even 10 seconds and just having a good belly laugh. It shifts your emotional state. It sort of downgrades those stress hormones and upregulates the positive sort of, the well-being ones.
Right. So what you're saying, it's an active choice, an active movement I guess active is the word that comes to my mind.
Yes, it is, and it's not just in those ways. And this is something that I talk about in my book. There's intellectual ways of doing it. You can reframe. This is a really powerful thing. You can reframe challenging times with levity.
Right.
You can reframe or journal with positive intent. So you can take this particularly challenging time that you're going through
Right.
and view it, say, for example, through the lens of gratitude.
Right.
And that creates a shift. And
Okay.
it actually makes you be able to better respond to whatever challenge it is that you are going through.
Right. So it's obviously not minimizing the challenge,
No.
but at the same time being, as I said the best version of yourself in that very moment.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes.
And the other, I guess, you spoke about your situation with your cancer to a degree that maybe you can step back to 10 years ago. Just give us a little bit of history of that. How did it come about?
Sure. So, yes, I'd had, this could be an advocate for Bowel Cancer Australia too.
Absolutely.
I'd had sort of irregular bowel movements.
Okay.
And my GP was just getting a little bit sick and tired of me visiting grumpily away. He said, right, it's time to do something about it.
Right.
Let's get you checked out top and tail. And that's exactly what happened. And a polyp was found that initially looked benign, but actually turned out to be a nasty one.
Okay.
And there was some cancerous cells outside of the of that polyp. So I was very fortunate in that I was left with choice. I could either choose to do nothing more and basically walk around for the rest of my life with my fingers crossed and hope that the cancer hadn't spread.
Right.
And with 2 kids at the time, 12 and 15, I didn't really think that was the best option.
No.
Another option was to do a partial bowel resection, but the extraordinary thing about all of the advances in medical technology, that the only way that you can assess lymph in the bowel, whether the cancer is spread, is to do a full bowel resection.
Okay.
So a partial bowel resection wasn't going to give me the sort of peace of mind.
Right.
So I
you may as well go
opted,
to the first option.
so then I thought, right, I need to do whatever it takes to ensure my brightest future, both for myself and for my family, and I chose to have a full bowel resection, which came with the added bonus of a temporary, thank goodness, ileostomy, which is basically a bag that I had to wear outside of my stomach for 4 months, and I have a man-made rectum, fun fact.
Wow.
So, yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so extremely grateful that, as I suppose dramatic as that year was, that, thank goodness I'm here to tell the tale.
Absolutely. We're a decade on. Ros, can I just ask, mentally though, laughter, how did it help you in that moment? Because there surely must have been some tough times there.
Oh yes, as I said, there's nothing funny about a cancer diagnosis. But somehow, even early on, I realised that laughter was integral to my recovery. And I suppose the first hint was the timing of, would you believe, a corporate laughter yoga session. It was a corporate lingerie party that I was invited to present laughter yoga. Now, 4 days prior to major bowel surgery, let me tell you, it was the last place that I wanted to be. And I sort of entered the room, filled, with lead weight, and went through the motions of, the health benefits of laughter, which I was really good at, practicing. Preaching about, laughter being the best medicine, and thinking, oh my God, but look where it's got me. And then I conducted the actual laughter yoga session, and it was amazing. Some of those lead weights that had descended on diagnosis just, lifted.
Wow.
And it meant that psychologically I felt a lot more prepared for the 5.5 hour surgery that awaited me. Now, the interesting thing is that laughter up until that very moment of bowel cancer was something that I'd taken for granted. We all take laughter for granted.
Right.
We ha 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 before we da 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 or ma ma ma. But if anybody here is listening, and if either you've had any form of abdominal surgery, whether that's for a good reason, like a cesarean and a baby, or a not so great reason, something else, you physically cannot laugh for many, many weeks after, and I could barely breathe for many weeks. So the I really had to think about other ways in which I could connect to that positivity, to that joy, to
Sure.
that healing source without ha 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 laughter. And that's when I started to really sort of journal, as I say, with positive intent, embed gratitude into my daily practice, smiling, really sending the energy of the smile from my head to my heart to wherever it was in my belly. And that released endorphins, those feel-good hormones that the body's synthetic morphine, and they're actually 30 times more powerful.
Wow,
which
that's
explains why
incredible.
often, if people are going through a really, difficult time and they're, even with physical pain, after a really hearty laugh, it's like it's diminished their pain, or even, they forget about it. So it was really, it was an opportunity for me to really explore deeper the laughter effect, what has now known as the laughter effect.
Yeah, and speaking of that, what's amazing is you touched on the yoga session, which I'm assuming lasted 45 minutes to an hour. Was that an hour that changed your life, so to speak?
It probably was about, the whole session was about an hour, so it was probably about, just under half an hour, about health benefits, because you can't just sort of dump people into sort of like, hey, let's laugh. It's like they'll run.
Okay.
You have to actually sort of go through the process of, demonstrating that it's not totally a crazy thing to do, and there's lots of research to support laughter for well-being. So the actual laughter yoga session was probably only 25 minutes.
Wow.
It didn't necessarily change my life but in that moment it did.
Yeah, what I meant is, did it give you like, wow, like this really works?
Yes, it was the first time I realised I needed this more than the group that I was facilitating.
That's what I'm driving at.
Yeah.
And I guess just as a normal human being, that is, certainly it's something that I personally want to take away, if nothing else, is that things can change very quickly in your own mind.
Correct, and in your own life.
Yes. And one of the comments that you made to us beforehand was that a lot of your issues are in your mind and in your head. Can you just talk about that, and also maybe like the power of the mind to really dictate your intent of being happy, so to speak?
Well, the interesting thing about the mind is that we all know it's very complex, but you can't actually inhabit two conflicting emotional states at the same time. So either you're in a negative mindset, you're thinking about everything that's gone wrong,
right.
You're very critical, you're really negative, and it's all, that direction. Or there's the more positive state of mind where you're sort of connecting to things like love or joy or gratitude or laughter or smiling. So you can't actually the mind doesn't know how to sort of have both emotions at the same time. So wherever you sort of place your attention, whatever you focus on,
right.
That is what grows. So we can either grow goodness,
right,
or not. The choice is ours. And even, it doesn't necessarily solve all of our problems or all of our challenges, but it makes us more resilient to be able to respond to them better, and can diminish them as well.
Yes, and I think it also goes back to that word of agency of control.
Correct.
That the message that I'm taking is that I have a lot more control than I think.
We do, and it's a real bummer, isn't it? It's like we have to take responsibility. It's like, oh, can't someone else do it?
Right, and I guess it goes back to that whole victim card thing, that maybe
Correct.
You're not so much of a victim after all, so to speak.
Yes, that's right. And you may or may not have heard, about, a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Okay.
So, we can adapt our mindset, which is the notion of a growth mindset, or we can just sort of basically believe that how we are now is how we were back 10 years ago and how we will be in 10 years' time.
Right.
So it's not that helpful.
Got it. And speaking of growth mindset, let's talk about growth as in age growth. You work at La Trobe University, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you teach a class, and I suppose there are a lot of young adult, late teenagers in that class?
Yes.
Okay, as somebody that has a few children in that age category, I want to know, how can we make our kids the best versions of themselves in terms of using laughter and using positivity without, I suppose, being unrealistic is maybe that's the right word?
A good question, a big question.
Yes.
And I might just sort of have a bit of an aside here in
Sure.
that, most people just sort of assume that laughter happens as a result of something funny that's happened. or you go to a comedy festival and you laugh. Most laughter, 80% of laughter actually occurs in conversation. It's called the punctuation effect. So if we were to now play back the interview that we've had, there would have actually been a lot of incidental laughter.
Sure.
Okay. So I think when it comes to our children, or to anyone really, if we can encourage social connections, because then we get a lot of that incidental laughter, and we all know, the power of that sort of connectivity. It's also about, telling your kids that, the world is a really messed up place, but that doesn't mean to say that you always have to focus on that. We have agency. You can perhaps have a news-free day. The world won't end if you don't watch the news, but possibly, it's going to feed into your negative state of mind. And encourage, healthy habits. For example, at the dinner table, share something funny that happened. Grow that humour habit and the capacity. It's like any muscle. The more you use it, the more, it becomes second nature. And even and with the really littlies, for example.
Yes. Tell us all.
Oh yes. Say for example, they trip over their shoelace, and it's nothing major at all, but they start crying, and it's sort of, it's like there's two responses, I suppose. There's, oh my God, oh no, you poor thing, oh that's terrible, or it's like, oh what a silly shoelace, what a fancy that, let's put it together and etc. So it's how you respond also, how you model. It's like, do you create, drama kings and queens, future drama kings and queens, or, comedians?
Yeah, no, I think that's an amazing point. And also, I guess, to get a little bit deeper, because you work with this age group so often.
Not the littlies.
No, but the big littlies, if you will. Typically, they come home, that look on their face and so forth and so on. How would you approach them in those moments when you know that the best way to help them is to maybe have them have a laugh? But if you tell them, I want you to tell me 5 great things that happened today, they will tell you, Dad, shut up. Yeah.
I hear you. I think the thing about you can't force anything.
Yeah.
And that's not what it's about. One of my go-tos is a grateful, and a gratitude practice.
Okay.
And I think that a lot of people have a misperception about, when it's appropriate to celebrate things. It's like, so for example, if you went to a footy match, you wouldn't wait until the final cheer to celebrate. There'd be lots of different celebrations throughout. And so it's the same thing, with, anyone, not just children. You sort of bring those sort of gratitude moments into the smaller but significant moments. So it could be, oh, did you catch up with your friend in the playground today?
Right.
Or how was your lunch? Or wasn't it a lovely, day? So it's not about, hey, you've graduated type, let's be grateful for that. It's those micro moments of joy. So the more micro moments of joy you can, sort of demonstrate, for the kids to notice, that's going to sort of form the beat of their day. The micro moments of joy rather than the micro moments of micro moments of other,
Yeah, that's actually incredible the way that you put it, because I do believe very strongly that a lot of life, most of it is made up of little micro moments.
Correct. It is. And we need to pay attention to, what sort of, as I say, what sort of beat they have.
Got it. And maybe switching gears but complementing The Laughter Effect, your new book.
Can I do it?
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay.
Just because it looks so pretty.
Exactly. But you are fairly prolific. What is the gist of this book? Obviously, we can't sum up how many pages is it here. It's a lot of pages.
It is. It's a lot, because I actually wanted it to be
500 pages.
What?
Yes.
500?
476.
No, it's not. 200 and...
Oh, I can't read anymore because of my eyes.
Yeah, well, look at me.
Okay.
245 pages, but that's got references.
Okay.
The gist is that this is I suppose it's a life philosophy that when put in practice, it's both humour and non-humour based, can turbocharge joy and positive well-being. And so in it, it goes through sort of, the history of
Right.
laughter has been so integral. I mean,
Yes.
think about the Bible. I mean, Sarah laughed, after,
Right.
finally she told she was pregnant. After
Exactly.
So it sort of talks about humor, laughter, laughter as medicine, intentional practices, and then there's the sort of the new dimension to self-care, which is sort of the embodiment factor of the laughter effect into other practices like self-compassion,
Right.
journaling, gratitude.
Yeah, no, and these are all skills that, frankly, we all need. I think that COVID maybe just accelerated them.
100%.
But even pre-COVID, let's face it, that we've been in somewhat of a spiritual decline as a people, so to speak. And maybe that this is the answer.
Well, who doesn't want more joy and levity? I mean, seriously, it's like, we want it, but this is the way in which you can actually live it and get it.
Yes.
And not sort of, superficially. This is evidence-based.
Yeah, and what I like about that too is, and it just goes back to, I can't help but being a parent, is that if I could instill any attitude on all of my children, or our children, would be what I would call healthy optimism. That, and I'm not talking about telling your child that you are the greatest in the world at everything, because it's just simply not true.
What sort of father is he?
A Jewish father. You got an idea? You need 100. But how to really instill that, if I could give my child any attitude, as I said, it's healthy optimism, and that if you set yourself up for success enough number of times, you will have some success. And is, in your mind, the laughter effect a good place to get some of these tools to teach this type of mindset?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, the link between laughter, optimism, joy, positivity, they're all very much, together on this. And yes, answer to your question.
Absolutely. Ros, in summation, I suppose, if there were a couple of things that you really would love everybody to know about laughter and joy, what would they be?
Don't leave those feel-good, emotions to chance. Turn towards them. So even if you are sort of feeling a bit low mood,
Yes.
for example, you wake up in the morning and it's like grey sky outside, and what's going to be, waiting for you in theory. Sure. Place a heartfelt smile on your face and really sense into perhaps some of the love that you have either for yourself or other people. And it's a very sort of heartfelt way to cue those well-being hormones and start your day in the sort of, that sort of essence of joy. That would be one thing. I mean, I've got one more.
Sure.
Oh gosh, the pressure. Yeah. Okay, so a lot of people find things mildly amusing.
Yes.
A lot of people, laughing out loud can be a very vulnerable act. My suggestion would be to laugh out loud when you can.
Okay. And
create opportunities to do that. So connect with people that, that get that laughter going. If you're watching TV, we actually laugh 30 times more in company. So
really?
If you're going, yes. So rather than going into your own room, sort of, watching a comedy on your laptop, do it with a friend, or go into the living room and watch TV,
Wow.
A sitcom together, because you're more likely to laugh out loud. So, and as I say, if you sort of find that a bit tricky, experiment by reframing,
Yes.
using the written word to sort of view, a day, there might not be, every day might not be good, but there is good in every day.
That's amazing, yes.
And that is something like, journaling with positive intent, that enables you to see that. And so the more you see it, the more you see.
Just like working out every day.
Yeah, it is. It's neuroplasticity. Bicep calls for neuroplasticity. It's the same thing. Whatever you practice, you get good at. If it's bad habits, you get good at them. So why not? Choose the laughter effect and
Excellent, Ros. Thank you so much, everybody. Surely there are so many great takeaways here, but you do have more control than you think. Ros, thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, and for everything you do.